documented that human activities had led to mass extinction of plants and animals, and through loss of habitat, pollution, and now climate change. And now it's accelerated at a speed of 1,000-fold, and nearly 1 million species are on the verge of extinction. So that's enough said. The A in our A+B conference stands for action. And this means that we have to cut down our carbon emission by 50% in 20 years by 2040. Otherwise, the house would have burned down, it'd be too late. And clearly, it's not just technological. There has to be a lot of economic, social, and political will and action involved to make it happen. And we have to be talking about terawatt scale, otherwise it's not going to have an effect in 20 years. And that means wind, solar, and nuclear, which means light water reactors at this moment. And also we have to think beyond just the developed world. So China is now the #1 emitter, and probably soon followed by India and Africa. So the solutions and the actions that we think and design has to be at a world scale. The letter B in A+B doesn't stand for Plan B. It actually stands for baby technologies. Right? So today, they are babies, and we have to nurture these technologies. But in 20 years, they will become adults, and they could replace some of the dirtier parts of the solution A. And for example, in nuclear, that could be fast reactors that burns away nuclear waste, could be safer, and it could be carbon sequestration, which is yet to may save our skin. It could be better tasting artificial meat, et cetera, et cetera. So I look forward to the nearly 300 oral and poster presentations in the next 2 days. It's a very exciting event. And I do encourage, so we have several parallel sessions for people, sort of artificially designed, so there's a mixing of topic, and you are encouraged to actually go between the rooms. They are all very close by, so feel free to leave one session and join another session. So my co-organizers, Professor Jerry Yan, from editor-in-chief of Applied Energy, and also Dr. Ray have done a lot of work, and a select number of the oral presentations and posters will be invited to contribute to the Applied Energy, which will be peer-reviewed, and if it passes the peer review, will be published. But I want to sort of bring a bit of democracy, so not everybody can be invited. So I want to sort of introduce a bit of democracy to this process. So you should take a piece of paper. So if you don't have paper, I'm going to put this box outside. It says your feedback box. There will be some papers in here. Write down, print your name here. And then for every talk that you like, write down the ID number. And you can write as many talks you like as there is no limit, but your vote would be fractionalized, right? So if you select 6 talks you like out of all the talks you heard, your vote will be 1/6 contributing to that talk that you like. And then we're going to collate your votes at the end. So by the time you leave the conference, please remember to sign also, so we know like only one, nobody multiply voted. And then remember to put that in the box, which will be put at the front desk. And also, if you don't like to use this piece of paper, you can also keep record in your cell phone or computer, and you can email to Ray at the end. And also, you can write down your feedback to the conference. So any suggestions or recommendations for future events, feel free to write down that, and just remember to put it in the box at the end. So we're going to consider your feedback, and partially based on the feedback to decide who to recommend to be invited to the journal. And one last thing is a lot of the talks will be video recorded. The goal is that we're going to post this on YouTube, and it's going to be shared with the world. And of course, there is a privacy concern. So if you opt out, I mean, Ray probably already asked you, we're not going to record, of course. But if you change your mind, let him know, and we can still do that. All right. With that, next, I would like to have a video message from United Nations from Dr. Scott Foster.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Scott Foster. I'm Director of the Sustainable Energy Division here at United Nations Economic Commission for Europe. I regret that I can't be with you today in person, but other obligations are keeping me here in Geneva. I nevertheless wish you all the best for your symposium. I'm very pleased that the organizers, the hosts, have invited me to address you. When you look through the program that you've got and the topics that you're trying to deal with, they're very well aligned with what we're trying to achieve. So I'd like to explain that a bit, but I very much look forward to getting the results from your symposium, because that'll be a big contribution to our own work. Now, the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, we are one of the 5 regional commissions in the UN system. Our membership includes North America, so it's Canada and the United States. It includes Western, Central, and Eastern Europe. It includes as well the former Soviet Union, Israel, and Turkey. I guess you could say that's a bit of a colonial view of what Europe is. Now, I run the Sustainable Energy Division, and I have got next to me 7 other divisions working on issues like environment and transport, land management, housing. And we do a lot of standard setting, standards for cars or roads, signposts and things like that. We do standards for the environmental that countries then take on board as their own regulatory system. That's what the UNECE is all about. It's standard setting, but as well dialogue amongst governments. Now, when I think through the challenges that you've laid out, there's both the challenge of how do we optimize the system that we've got, optimizing that in terms of environmental impacts, social impacts, and economic development. And then to go further towards the transformation with new technology, new business models. That's where the linkage, to my view, is perfect. Now, we deal with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And often our community will say, well, what do you mean by sustainable? There's no real definition for sustainable. And I think it's quite simple. On the one hand, you've got sustainability from the perspective of climate change. And we are in the process of, frankly, cooking our planet. And we're way, way late in responding. It is 10 past midnight on the doomsday clock if you're thinking about climate change. On the other hand, you've got quality of life aspirations of most of the world. And while they might care about climate change, they also care about putting food on the table, roof over their head, educating their children. And the challenge that we face at the UN is how do you approach these in an integrated, holistic way? And that's what we're working on. Now, I can describe our activities in 4 different clusters. There's a lot more detail. I won't do that to you. That would be too much detail. But at a higher level, we've got one set of activities that are focused on reducing the environmental footprint of the energy system. That's where we're looking at high efficiency, low emissions technologies for fossil. We're looking at carbon capture and storage. We're trying to address the issue of methane emissions from the energy system. These are very significant efforts that we have underway, really trying to stay within the CO2 budget that's linked to 2 degrees. Now, we're right on the track towards 5 degrees, somewhere between 4 and 6 degrees, with the work that we're currently doing. Countries have made their nationally determined contributions, and that's what they are claiming to want to do. That leads to 2 gaps. Gap number 1 is those NDCs don't take us to 2 degrees. We're much higher than that. It actually takes us towards 3 degrees. And there's a gap with what countries are actually doing. They're not necessarily meeting their commitments. And that's why I say we're heading somewhere between 4 and 6. I'll say 5. Think about the weather events that you're witnessing today. They're linked to a 1 degree rise in temperatures. Imagine what 5 degrees will do. So there is urgency. There is an enormous challenge.
In the interest of time, maybe we can
If I think about that other side of the equation, which is this quality of life aspect, and so the others are doing their part, that will make it more likely that everybody will try to do a bit more, because it's not freeloading on one or another. Now, the fourth area that we're working on is sustainable resource management. As I've just suggested, everybody's got their own resource foundation, but there's some common approaches, and the UN's developed an umbrella system for how you classify natural resources. We're now moving to sustainable resource management system, which means that countries can look at their resources and try to manage them in line with the 2030 agenda. Now, this is where we work very closely with MIT and with your colleagues that are hosts today in trying to get a system in place that allows for that sustainable resource management. It's circular economy. It's making sure that the critical rare materials that we need for tomorrow's energy system are available when we need them. So across the range of our activities, I think you can hear again and again and again what you're doing over the next days and what we're trying to achieve are very well aligned. So I would like to thank our hosts for inviting me to send you this message. I wish I could be there, and I'll try to be there next year if I can. And I wish you the best success, and I look very much forward to the results of your symposium. Have a good symposium. Thanks a lot.